Hello everyone and welcome back to another Godot tutorial. In today's video we are going to see how to connect the SQLite database to your Godot project. If you are creating a new game and wondering how to connect the database to it, then this is the right tutorial for you. So in this project we are going to create a simple database with a table of players that will have the names and the IDs of each player. And also we will have a very simple user interface for adding, removing and updating players. Now I have created this new Godot project, and the first thing we need to do is to install the SQLite framework. So we need to go to the asset library and search for SQLite. That will show us a list of frameworks, and the one we need to install is Godot SQLite for Too Shady for You. Click on it, click on download, that can take a while to download depending on your network speed. We just need to wait. And after downloading the framework, just click on install. Click OK. And just like that, now we are able to use SQLite database alongside with our Godot project. Going back to 2D. And now let's get started by creating the user interface. So go ahead and click user interface. That will give us a control node, and inside of this control node I'm going to add 3 buttons, one for the add player, remove player, and the third one for updating the player. So go to button, want to center it, just put it here, make it a little bit bigger, and the text field I'm going to write down add player and rename it to add player. I'm going to duplicate this button twice, one for removing the player and the other one is for updating the player. So let me change the name here to remove player, changing the text also to remove player, and here update player. Now after adding the 3 buttons, I'm going to add 4 text fields, one for adding the player and one for removing the player and 2 for updating the player. I want to make it here, just make it a little bit bigger and rename it to add player text field. Duplicate it for and rename this one to remove player text field. And 2 text fields for updating the player. So update player text field 1 and update player text field 2. Now we need to add one more thing, is scroll container. that will have a vertical box container. Let me rename it to rows. And this square container is going to be, place it here, make it a little bit bigger. And in here we are going to have the players list. And that's all for the user interface. Let's save it. And now the next thing we need to do is to start working on the code. So let's go ahead and attach a script for the control node. And the first thing we need to do is to create two variables. The first one is for the database, which is going to be SQLite. And the second thing is the database path. So database path is going to have resources, database, and that's all. Now in the ready function, you need to create a new database. So database is going to be SQLite dot new, and we need to set the database path to our variable database path. And the last thing is to open this database. So database dot open db. And that's all. Now when we run the project and go to the resources folder, we can have our database file. Okay, I don't see it here. Let me see the problem. Okay, this is the problem. We mistyped the path of this file. Let me run the project again and go again to the resources file. And here we are, we have this database file. Now the next thing we need to do is to create a table. Let me delete this first. We don't need it. And in the ready function, I'm going to create a table of players that will have an ID and the name. So we need to create a new variable called table that will have an ID, and this ID is going to be of type integer. So data type is an integer. And also it's going to be a primary key. So primary key is true. And I want it to be not null. So not null. Also true. And I want it to be auto incremented. So auto increment also true. And that table is going to have also the name of each player. The data type of this name is going to be a text. Now down here, we need to create this table. So database dot create table. We give the name of this table, which is players, and put the variable table inside of it. And just like that, we can create a table to our database. So when we run the project again, you will have our table created inside our database. And to check this database file, I'm using DB browser for SQLite. So just open this file with this software and you will find everything inside your database. So we have database called database, and inside of it we have this players table with ID and name. I will leave a link in the description for this DB browser software. Now the next thing we need to work on is to make the buttons functional. And in order to do that, we need to connect signals to it. So go to the first button, which is Add Player, click on it, and go to Signals next to Inspector. And we need to connect the pressed signal to it. So click on Pressed and go to Connect, and click Connect. And like that, we will have this function here. And we need to do the same thing for the other two buttons. So go to Remove Player, connect it to pressed signal. And Update Player, the same thing. And like that, we have three functions here. One for the adding player, the next one is for removing the player, and the last one is for updating the player. Now let's start by working on the add player pressed. In this function, we are going to add a new player. So here I'm going to say if add player text field dot text is not empty, because you don't want to add a player with no name. Then we are going to create a new variable called data, and inside of this data variable we will have a new player name. So name is going to have the add player text field dot text. Now we need to insert this name to the database. So database insert row, and we want to insert this data to the players table, and we insert the data variable. It's typed here. Now we need to free the player text field. So add player text field. Text is going to be empty. Now we run the project, and here we type a name of a player, for example, Aldo. We click on add player, and using the DB browser again, when you go to browse data, we can see that we have in our table the player called Aldo with ID 1. And if I go again and add a new player like Chris, add player, and go to DB browser and click on refresh, we will see that we have another player called Chris. So our adding function is working fine. Now let's work on the only remove player pressed function. So here I'm going to say database.query. We need to write a query. So here I'm going to say delete from players where name equal to the remove text field dot text, and that's all. Now I want to free the remove text field and make it empty again when we remove a player. So remove text field, text is going to be empty. Now let me run the project again, and I want to type here the name of the player, Chris or Aldo. I'm going to say Aldo, click on remove player. I'm going back to DB browser, refresh the database, and here we are, we just deleted Aldo. Now the last function is how to update the player. Now again, I'm going to type a query. So database query is going to be update players set. We want to set a new name for the player. So it's going to be update text field number 2 dot text, and let's say where name is update text field 1. The text, and we close the query here. Now again, I want to free those text fields. So update text field 1 is going to be empty. And also update text field 2 empty. Now let's run the project again. Now we have our player called Chris. I want to change the name of Chris to maybe Jack. Click on update player and refresh the table, and you can see that we have changed the name of Chris to Jack. Now instead of using DB browser, I want to create a table of the players inside our project, and that's why we are going to use the scroll container for this thing. Now here I need to create a new function called load players, and inside of this function we are going to make or create a list of all the players. So let me start by creating a new variable called rows container that will have a scroll container rows. And now for child in rows container, we want to get the children of each row. So get children, and we want to child dot q3. And we are doing this because you don't want a duplicated place. So when we remove or add a player, we don't have like a sort of duplicated data. And now I need to write a query for selecting all the IDs and the names of each player. So database query here, select ID and name from place. Now we want to display all this data inside the scroll container. So for row in database query result, I'm going to create a variable called hbox. It's going to be a horizontal box container. And another variable called ID label. It's going to have a new label. So label dot new. And this ID label will have the ID text of each row. So ID label text is going to have, we need to cast it to string because all IDs are integers. So here row of this ID. And we need to do the same thing for the name. So name label. It's going to be a new label. And we set this label to the name of this player inside of this row. Now we need to add this child inside of the horizontal box container. So hbox add child ID label, and this same thing for the name. Now we need to add all of these IDs and names inside the row inside of the scroll container. So rows container dot add child hbox. Now we need to call this function inside every other function. So in the ready function, we can call it here load players. After we add each player, we need to display this list. So load players, and also when removing and updating players. Now when we run the project again, we have a problem. I need to make it text here. That's the problem. Let me run the project again. And as you can see, we have a list of the players. And when we add more players, we will see that we have a scrollable list that we can scroll down and up. I hope this example will help you in your future games. And that's all for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and see you all later.